Harley Davidson. We reported last night here President Trump lashing out after Harley Davidson said it was moving some production overseas because of the tariffs, they say already having an impact on them. Well, tonight the president going even further, saying Harley Davidson motorcycles should never be built in another country. And he's now threatening them with new taxes.
And causing the actual decisions that some companies like Harley Davidson are making is that these tariffs are no longer abstract. They're becoming real.
Harley Davidson just got absolutely wrecked by Trump with huge tariffs, and he threatened they'll be taxed like never before. And you know what? They had it coming. Turning their backs on American workers and loyal riders wasn't just bad business. It was pure betrayal that no one's ever going to forgive. Trump went absolutely ballistic on Harley Davidson, and honestly, I don't blame him. He straight up called them out for betraying American workers and values. That this isn't just a little scolding. This is Trump literally saying, if Harley dares to move production overseas, they'll be taxed like never before. That's not a warning, that's a death sentence from the guy who basically branded himself on America first. And the crazy part is, Harley deserved every bit of it, because this is a company that for years rode on the idea of being this patriotic, all-American, freedom-loving brand. Trump even praised them back in 2016 and 2017 when Harley executives came to the White House. He shook their hands, smiled for the cameras, told everyone Harley was a symbol of America. But what happens when you take the president's praise and then stab it right in the back? You end up roasted in front of the entire country. That reversal, from Harley being celebrated as an icon to being dragged as traitors, was brutal. Investors were shocked. Customers were pissed. And Harley? They became the poster child for corporate betrayal, all because they couldn't stay loyal to their own damn roots. Here's the thing, Harley wasn't just any brand. This is a company founded in 1903. For over a century, Harley Davidson stood for rebellion, freedom, grit, and toughness. When you thought about America's roaring engines and loud biker culture, you thought Harley. But then came 2018, the year they decided to pull the rug from under everyone. Instead of doubling down on what made them great, Harley decided to shift production overseas. Yeah, the Made in America brand suddenly turned into made wherever it's cheaper. And where did they go? Thailand. That's right, Harley built a shiny new plant in Thailand, while already running facilities in Brazil and India. And as if that wasn't insulting enough, they actually shut down their Kansas City, Missouri facility. Real American jobs, gone. Families depending on those paychecks, tossed aside like yesterday's trash. And what excuse did Harley throw at us? Oh, they said this was about protecting access to Europe after tariffs. That's rich. Like somehow the only way to survive was to turn their back on the very people who made them a global name. Writers weren't fooled. To them, this wasn't strategy. It was pure corporate cowardice. The company that once screamed about loyalty and tradition suddenly folded at the first sign of trouble. You don't call yourself an American icon and then run off to Thailand the minute things get hard. That's not survival. That's selling out. And just to make things even more insulting, Harley tried to convince people that their new Thailand plant was only for international markets. Oh, really? Just for Europe, huh? Except guess what? Bikes from that plant were later spotted right here in the United States. So much for that story. That's like promising your family you'll only eat fast food when you're traveling, and then they catch you in the kitchen with a bucket of fried chicken. The lie was obvious, and it shredded whatever little trust they had left. For a brand that lived off loyalty, that betrayal cut deeper than any tariff could. Now, let's talk about the real fireworks. In 2018, the European Union raised tariffs on US motorcycles from 6% to 31%. That was a big jump, no question. It threatened Harley's European sales for sure. But instead of doubling down on American workers, instead of using that as a rallying cry, Harley chose to run. They shifted production overseas, and that's when Trump went nuclear. He accused Harley of quitting, of surrendering their patriotism just to protect their profits. And then he dropped the hammer with the line that made headlines: "The aura will be gone, and they will be taxed like never before." That's not just anger, that's Trump basically putting Harley on his hit list. And the worst part? He was right to be furious, because Harley wasn't just responding to tariffs, they were actively disrespecting the very people who built their empire. Trump connected it all back to his own steel and aluminum tariffs. He said Harley wanted to enjoy the benefits of being American, but didn't want to pay the costs. In other words, Harley wanted to wave the American flag when it suited their marketing. But the second money got tight, they ditched that flag for a calculator, and Trump wasn't having any of it. He turned their so-called business decision into a moral conflict. Loyalty to America versus chasing cheap profits abroad. Think about how insane this looks. You've got the President of the United States, the same guy who welcomed Harley execs into the White House, now standing on the biggest stage possible and calling them quitters. He told them flat out, if you move production abroad, don't expect to come crawling back and sell in the US without paying the price. Imagine being one of those die-hard Harley riders, the ones with eagle tattoos and decades of loyalty, and hearing the president say the company you love just surrendered. That's a slap in the face. It doesn't just sting, it burns. This is what happens when a company forgets where it came from. Harley Davidson tried to play it both ways. They wanted the legacy of being American-made while quietly sneaking around with foreign factories. They wanted to hold on to their image while stabbing their workers in the back. And Trump called it exactly what it was. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't dance around it. He went straight for the jugular. He said Harley quit. He said they surrendered. And he promised they'd pay a price like never before. So, what do we have? A company that went from being praised in 2016 and 2017 at the White House to being dragged in 2018 as traitors. A brand that symbolized rebellion and freedom for more than a century, suddenly exposed as nothing more than a sellout corporation. They closed Kansas City, opened Thailand, blamed tariffs, and thought they could fool their customers. But they didn't fool Trump. And they sure as hell didn't fool the riders who built the Harley name. What they did instead was hand their entire legacy over on a silver platter for Trump to roast. And roast he did. Perfect. I'll take only the 3 sections you listed: fallout, identity meltdown, and conclusion, nothing else, and turn them into 800 words in the same roasting, conversational, sarcastic style as before. I'll keep it simple, direct, and absolutely brutal on Harley. Here's the second half of the script. Harley's downfall didn't just happen quietly in the background. It blew up right in front of everyone's eyes. Their stock fell by 18% in 2018. That's not some minor dip you recover from with a press release. That's a faceplant. Investors looked at Harley and said, "Nope, we're out." Confidence collapsed overnight. The market doesn't forgive betrayal, and Harley learned that lesson the hard way. They thought they could spin their story, play it off like this is just strategy, but the numbers told the truth. 18% down, just like that. That's millions wiped out because Harley couldn't keep their own house in order. And the craziest part? Harley had the loyalty of an entire nation in their hands. By 2017, 61% of Harley's sales came from the US. That means more than half their revenue was riding on American buyers, the people waving flags, the veterans, the blue-collar backbone that kept them alive. Instead of appreciating that, instead of saying thank you to the folks who literally carried them through every crisis, Harley looked across the ocean and said, "Let's make half our sales international. Let's abandon the people who built us and chase customers who don't care about our brand soul." That was the plan, and it backfired spectacularly. Because you know who noticed? Those same conservative blue-collar riders. The ones who saved Harley in the 1980s when Japanese imports almost killed them. Back then, Harley survived because tariffs gave them breathing room and American workers put in the grind to bring back quality and loyalty. That group never forgot. They treated Harley like a family heirloom, passed down from father to son, generation to generation. And Harley repaid that loyalty by slapping a Made in Thailand sticker on the bikes. Imagine how insulting that feels. You've got guys who've been riding Harleys since the 70s, who've poured their sweat and pride into that brand, now being told their sacred machine is coming from some foreign assembly line. It wasn't just bad business, it was a personal betrayal. The anger wasn't just about money or tariffs or even job losses. It was emotional. Riders felt sucker punched. The sound of Harley wasn't just an engine to them. It was America on wheels. To replace that with overseas production was like ripping out their identity and selling it back to them in a box. People weren't just mad, they were disgusted. It's one thing to lose customers. It's another thing to insult the very people who built your empire. And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear how Harley tried to reinvent itself. Because their so-called identity reboot wasn't just misguided, it was comedy. Harley bet big on electric motorcycles, and not just any electric bikes. No, they had to go full-tech startup mode with synthetic engine sounds, AI dashboards, and all this green branding. Let me translate that. Harley built quiet scooters that pretended to sound tough. That's not innovation, that's cosplay. Riders mocked it instantly. The iconic potato rumble roar that shook neighborhoods for decades, gone. Replaced by fake revs, pre-programmed through speakers. It was like trading a rock concert for elevator music. Nobody wanted it. And Harley didn't stop there. They decided dealerships needed to be more modern, so they turned them into hipster showrooms. Think less grease and engines, more Apple Store with yoga mats and lattes. Seriously, yoga classes at Harley dealerships. Because nothing screams rebellion like downward dog next to a $30,000 cruiser. The gritty biker vibe was replaced with mood lighting and scented candles. It was so out of touch, it almost felt like parody. They alienated their core riders while trying to impress a crowd that was never going to buy in the first place. The global rebrand strategy was a disaster. Harley wanted to be everything at once, a traditional American icon and a futuristic global tech company. But instead of blending the two, they ended up stuck in the middle, trapped between nostalgia and desperation. It was like watching your tough uncle trade his leather jacket for skinny jeans and a kombucha. Nobody bought it, literally and figuratively.